Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here, and welcome to another video. This is going to be an update video because it was about a little over 5 weeks ago that I had put these aquariums together. Got the underground filters working, put the lids on, put plants in, fish in, and got the cycle started. And I now have some interesting preliminary results, so I thought I'd share them with you. If you remember from the beginning of this particular one, this is the high humidity cover I had done for one of the tanks, and it's the one with the hinged door on it with a little bit of mag catch. If you remember at that time, I said this is one of my favorite ones. I really like the look of it, and I wanted to see, of course, how it grew. So every week I've recorded it, and I wanted to see the difference in the first 5 weeks at least. And actually the results are kind of interesting. First off, as you can see, it definitely is a high humidity environment. And all the water drips back in the tank, so there's no real loss of water in this at all. The other thing you'll notice is I added an air stone here just to add a little bit more splash, just to keep that environment as moist as possible. And the plants actually end up growing quite well. Now, obviously Anubias, which is the one on the right, that's just broadleaf, and the one right up in the front there, you can see two of the leaves sticking out, that's Nana Petite. They grow slow enough, I think, that they're going to end up being overcome by the two other plants in here, which is the pearlweed, which is to the left, because it's growing really well. It likes in the water, out of the water. It's a fast grower. It actually is a very good plant. I like it. It's certainly going to take over, I think. And the other one in the middle there that you can see a few leaves sticking up, that's Java fern, and it is also growing really well. By the end of this, by the end of the 5 weeks, those two are definitely the two winners as far as growing goes. But you can see on the Anubias on the right, it has actually had put out 2 new leaves, which for Anubias is really quite cool. I mean, it's like I said, it's a slow grower. Hopefully it won't get overgrown by the pearlweed mostly, I suspect. And especially the Nana Petite up front, I may have to shift that over a little bit or prune back with some of the plants. We'll just see how it all goes. So here you go. This is the end, really, of the 5 weeks. This is yesterday morning. This is actually really nice. I like the look of this. Again, this is the kind of thing that will probably require some sort of additional maintenance as far as keeping it look nice. But I find that sliding the tray out and that sort of stuff to look at it is actually quite good. So it's actually, like I said, this is a good result. So just to show you, I couldn't do a side-by-side because the 5 week one is just too overgrown. I couldn't crop it down without removing too much of it. So this is the beginning. This is 1 week in, and then I'm going to switch immediately to the 5 weeks, and you can see the difference. That's actually pretty good, considering that the tank is actually during this time cycling, so it's not really full of enough nutrient yet. And there wasn't a lot of fish in this tank. There's just a female guppy and her offspring. So that's actually really good results. And I'm not doing any fertilizing or anything like that. This is just strictly fish poop and bacteria, supplying them with all the fertilizer they're going to get. And I wanted to show you this a little bit. This is way back in the beginning again. This is when I was first put everybody in. I just wanted to show how I do the water changes. Just turn it 90 degrees. Let it drain down, and then I have a little valve on my hose, and I just turn it on, and then just fill her up. And I tend, if I do all the tanks at once, I find it does overload the system a little bit, but if I do 3 at a time, it's fine. It actually works quite well, and it's actually a very easy and efficient way of doing water changes. I mean, that's about a 30% water change right there, and I've never had any issues with the fish, and it's quite good. I actually did some footage for doing a water change as a skimmer process, but this video is already going to be quite long, so I thought I'd just leave that out and I'll put it in another time. Now, initially, the reason why I'm showing this particular footage is because shortly into the process of getting these tanks going, I picked up some Variatus crossbreeds, I think, with platies. They're really quite a pretty fish, and they had babies. They actually had 2 batches. This one here in this tank, and then another one in a 2 or 3 tanks down. And I wanted to show you the babies at the beginning because this is like day 1, and that's kind of interesting because by the end they're going to be 5 weeks of age, and I wanted to show you how even during a cycle how well these tanks are actually maintaining a reasonable environment for fish to grow in, which is kind of cool. And all those wiggly things you see, they're just they're microworms I've been feeding the fish. And you can see they still have the hump on their back where they haven't quite fully straightened out yet. These guppies were actually born, I think about 3 or 4 days earlier than those platies. So I also wanted to show you these guys because by the end of the video you're going to see them as well at an older age. And like I said, these are tanks that are cycling, but they're holding a reasonable environment, like an environment that's sufficiently good enough that these baby fish can grow up. So this is 1 weekend. I just wanted the baby platies are actually starting to run out into the world, and I was kind of concerned that they're going to get eaten. So I moved a couple over into the tank next door, and then I just recorded this just to show you this. This is 1 week, and actually it's pretty kind of cool. And I also want to show you these are the parents. Fish are kind of weird. They all have their own personalities. That male, I think, is prejudiced because he really likes that female that's of his color variety, but he really doesn't like any of the other females. He hasn't courted them. He just chases them away. It's kind of bizarre to watch. So there's a little baby. They're really doing quite well at this point. They were obviously looking like fish at this stage, so that's kind of neat. Now the other thing I wanted to show you here is this is the sintered glass undergravel filter, and the one beside it is the one with the media for growing plants. And the funniest thing about this is the mulm that grows on the bottom. This one here is this normal color, but the snail poop in here is really, really dark. It's kind of bizarre. So I thought I'd record that. It doesn't show up as well on the camera as it does with the naked eye, but and also I found that this particular tank doesn't stay clear. So I moved up the box filter I made into this tank, and you can see in 1 day this is how much it's accumulated and just material that's in the water column. It's actually quite a bit. And then at the end I'm going to show it to you again after it's been there for about 2 or 3 weeks. And this one, even though there's no real mechanical filtration because there can't be because there's so much void volume there, it stays quite clear. I wasn't actually expecting the sintered glass to do that well. I knew it was going to be a good biological media, but to actually stay clear, and like crystal clear, it was actually a bit of a surprise. I mean, that tank obviously doesn't have as much of a fish population as the others, but it was still an interesting result. Now these 2 tanks, this is yesterday, so this is 5 weeks in now, and these fish are doing really well. The plants are doing well. I didn't get any milk back or anything. This tank is a little bit cloudy today because I had just done a water change, but there's no real difference between this one and its neighbor. Now the population obviously is a little denser in here, but I was expecting that with the planter filter, the high humidity one, that this tank here would be a little bit more stable. But I mean, it's growing nicely. The plants are growing well. There's no complaints about it. But maybe it's just a little too early in for there to be any real difference. I mean, because they obviously just went through the cycle process. So, but these are both just regular gravel. There's no anything else involved here, and I find both of them are good. I mean, the fish are healthy. I mean, you can see the size of the guppies. Those babies are the ones I showed in the beginning. That's how old they are now, and you can see the baby platies moving around. They're all actually getting to the point now where they're maturing, so it's a good result. I mean, there's no, like I said, there's no complaints about it. This is the one, like I said, this is interesting. I like this result, and it's gonna be interesting to see how this one progresses. I did actually put a lot more gramaris in here, and also more shrimp, and there's less fish biomass, but it's actually doing really well. And this is the one probably I won't keep going for too much longer. I really don't like the the planter media, it just doesn't do well in under gravel filter. And I put in hornwort in both these tanks just to see if one would grow faster than the other, but I haven't really noticed any difference. They both grow quite well. I suspect in time there might be a difference, but anyway, who knows. Now this one here, this is a comparison. This is the filter I picked up when I was in Tokyo. It does have an interesting cycle pattern in the way it has a bit of vortexes, and you can see the mulm that's accumulating in the bottom, and that's intentional. It's supposed to keep things really clean and whatnot. I think I spent about $20 on this. It does have a lot of current flow and everything, but you can tell by how cloudy this tank is, it doesn't even keep up at all, even remotely, with even just the simplest under gravel filter DIY projects. I mean, it's just, I was originally thinking on taking this filter design and making my own knockoff for it. I may still do that eventually, I'm not sure, but that initial result just says there's no real point. Now remember, this tank I was growing some plecos and a bunch of other stuff in here, but it got completely overrun with duckweed. I mean, it was absolutely everywhere. It was disgusting. So I stripped it bare, and I'm going to move these babies over. These are about 8 weeks old now, and they're doing really quite well because I have to prune this back a little bit because you can see where the plants are going here. So I'm going to move them over to give them more room to grow. So anyway, I hope you like this update. If you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe, and I will try and do a few more updates from time to time just to keep up on them. I know they're not as interesting as builds, but I want to show you the results of things as well. And this filter here is still one of my favorites. It just keeps on going. You can't plug this thing up. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.